All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Anthony, for that wonderful introduction. Good to see so many familiar and friendly faces. We've been working together for so many years now that any chance to kind of reconnect on any level, I think is really awesome. As Anthony said, since 2020, I have been here, and it's here is Saipan, I should say. And let me just make sure that I've got my thing optimized for video. Okay, great. And I'll share my screen one more time here just to make sure I'm sharing the audio. And so today, what I am going to speak about as being the first speaker is what I have been working on for, I think it's probably about the last 6 years now, and that is stable coins on Bitcoin. And started with Bitcoin Cash and then moved on to eCash. And hopefully by the end of this, I know for sure that kind of within the group of people who are around eCash that there is a bit of ambivalence about stablecoins. I would hope that people would at least put it a little more on their radar if it isn't. I think it's actually the most important thing for us to be talking about. And the reason why I think that, and what I will try to show to you today in the brief time that I have, is why eCash is actually, bar none, the best network for stablecoins. I know there's some people in the audience who I don't have to convince on this, but it is. I think this is a superpower. I think this network is primed for it, and I've put my money where my mouth is, and I've devoted basically all of my professional time over the past 5 years at least to this idea. So the first thing I want to talk about is a killer app, this term killer app. And it's something that you are always wanting to look for in technology. So the definition from the Oxford Dictionary is a feature, function, or application of a new technology or product which is presented as virtually indispensable or much superior to rival products. In Wikipedia, they say it's any software that is so necessary or desirable that it proves the core value of some larger technology. And Investopedia on the investment side says it's a software program, feature, or user interface perceived as innovative enough to influence trends and sales. And so most people, when they talk about killer apps, the best example is that the killer app for the internet, for internet technology, and the reason why the internet took off is email. No doubt. Right? It's virtually indispensable. As an internet user, I mean, email is absolutely indispensable. As a matter of fact, most of us our core identity online is going to be our email address. It is a software that is so necessary or desirable that it proves the core value of some larger technology. So obviously the communications technology that is the internet is pretty much proved by email. And it's definitely a software program that was innovative enough to influence trends and sales, considering the fact that so many early sales were done in one way or another, and still to this day, through email. And it was the reason why many people even got the internet in the first place, especially at the academic and corporate level. So today, what I'm going to present is this idea. I've said it for many, many years, that Bitcoin's killer app is stablecoins. I put Tether here because Tether is obviously the original and most popular stablecoin, but that Bitcoin's killer app itself is the stablecoin technology, a stablecoin being tokenized fiat. So tokenized, particularly tokenized US dollars, can be just because of the fact that the US dollar is the global reserve currency. So then I've got to prove to you that it's three things, right? Indispensable, that's indispensable in terms of Bitcoin, the blockchain, the crypto world, that it proves the core value of Bitcoin, and that it is innovative enough and that stablecoins influence trends and sales. So the first thing that I want to say is Tether in particular is so indispensable that it's not only indispensable, it's obvious that it's indispensable to the crypto industry, because any of you who have gone and, let's say, bought eCash or bought Bitcoin Cash or bought Bitcoin or sold it, most likely if you have some and you've sold it, you have actually sold it for USDT in almost all cases. Actually, you could say Bitcoin is priced in USDT if you go to CoinMarketCap and you look and you see what the trading pairs are. But it's much, much more than that. So this is just from this August, writing about Venezuela having embraced stablecoins because the bolivar is completely collapsing. So this is an enemy of the United States. The United States has warships lined up outside Venezuela as we speak. And yet the people inside Venezuela, here we see it saying the role of stablecoins like USDC is a lifeline of payments, savings, and salaries, and is restructuring daily finance in the face of economic and political insecurity. So it's absolutely indispensable. And you will note that this was always the promise of Bitcoin, wasn't it? That cratering fiat, soaring inflation, hyperinflation, that Bitcoin would be the thing to solve it. Well, stablecoins are the solution. Does it prove the core value? I think this is really, really important, actually. I say it over and over. The first sentence of the white paper is a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash, which is, we're at the Electronic Cash Conference, would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. So Tether, at least in its initial and its, let's say, blockchain-based iteration as it is now, is a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash. Now, mind you, there's obviously a redemption function and an issuance function, right? This is a selling, moving on and off from fiat. But if I'm going to sell something with USDT, even if I want to do that on Ethereum now, it really is a peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that allows one party to send it to another without going through a financial institution. So it settles and it satisfies this idea of a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that is in Satoshi's vision. So it proves the core value in that regard. And is it enough to influence trends and sales? Well, if we're talking about trends, this just happened. So this is 10 days ago that Tether is seeking, I believe they're looking at $20 billion in investment. And if they get it at the valuation that they're talking about, they're looking at a $500 billion valuation. Now, the key with that is that will make Tether the most valuable privately held company in the world. They will surpass SpaceX. SpaceX is about $350 billion in valuation right now. It is the most valuable privately held company in the world. This will make Tether the most valuable privately held company in the world, and it will make Tether the most valuable privately held company, not inflation adjusted probably, but in terms of actual dollars, that has ever existed in history. And so if we want to talk about the influence of trends and sales, I think the numbers don't lie. The trend is going towards stablecoins. They're seen as incredibly valuable in the market, as valuable as private space exploration. And so if you've discounted them up to now, I would suggest definitely not doing that any further. And when it comes to stablecoins, man, I think there are some people in this community who say, oh, this is not for us. I'm not interested in it. You should know that Tether, which is now, going to become one of the most valuable companies in the world. The first 100 Tether ever minted back in October of 2014, was minted on eCash. So, of course, it was minted on BTC. There was no eCash, but it's in the eCash blockchain. So it's an original artifact. The first stablecoin, the first place that stablecoins ever existed, was right here on eCash and Bitcoin Cash and BTC and BSV. And so it is an original use case back in 2014. Of course, at that time, Ethereum was really nothing to speak about. And the only reason why it ended up going to Ethereum, which we'll talk about in just a second, but the only reason it ended up going there is because, as many of us know and weren't fighting against and involved in, on BTC, where it was issued with the Omni protocol, the blocks got full, the fees got too much. Ethereum's fees at the time were much lower. And so a move was made, and they started to mint on Ethereum, and now there is no more Omni protocol token that is minted of USDT, but it was there for quite a number of years. You can go right now and look on the eCash blockchain. And so the question should be, why, if it started on Bitcoin, it got its genesis on Bitcoin, it grew on Bitcoin, it was gestated on Bitcoin, including eCash, why did it not come back? What's going on? And is that an opportunity that is not being seen by the greater market as a whole? So I would argue, and I think many who you're going to hear from today would probably argue that move to Ethereum in terms of functionality was a huge step backward. And the reason why it was a step backward is because of the difference between the transaction model of Bitcoin, which uses what's called an unspent transaction output, or UTXO model, and the account model that is used with Ethereum and all of the other virtual machine style blockchains. The UTXO model is a very, very unique, very scalable, and perfectly suited for peer-to-peer cash model, whereas the account model is basically what you got with your bank. The UTXO model, really, this is where the coin aspect comes in, is that what you're moving around digitally has the structure of coins, of different weights of coins, like a bag of coins that can be split apart and put back together. And you can sort of see this in this diagram. Whereas the account model is really just a true ledger where there's somebody who has an account, their value goes up, the value goes down, as versus somebody else has the account I send to you. It just changes that number. The UTXO model is very different, very unique, and quite honestly, like perfectly suited in many different ways, and allows us to do some interesting things. And one of the most important aspects of it is there you can see it's only showing individual users sort of splitting and joining their coins back together. But one of the things that Bitcoin offers is the capability for actually multiple users to participate in one collaborative transaction and split and join their coins together. And that gives us all kinds of capabilities like swapping. It's basically a multi-sig, but it's an advanced multi-sig, but it also gives us the capability to have a one token user experience that you just simply cannot have with Ethereum. And so we'll talk about a little bit what that looks like. This is the big problem that is now, as stablecoins are moving forward, now as all of these governments and institutions and banks are coming online and they're like, we want to use stablecoins. Stablecoins are the hot thing. This is what they're going to run into. The two-token friction that we all have seen, where I've got a token, I want to send it, and this is on Ethereum, I need to have some ETH for gas in order to send it. But if I send it to my friend into his wallet and he has no ETH, it's stuck. It's stuck until he gets some. And that user experience is completely different from anything that anyone has experienced who's coming from the old legacy system. There was no idea like this. If I've got $100 in my account, I can send it to you so long as there's some channel for me to get it there. Or if I have $100 in cash, right? I can give it to you. I don't need to go out and get Korean won and be like, oh, I also need to have, or a stamp, right? So like I was sending it in the mail. So in this case, this is going to be a friction that people are going to hit when we move out of the DeFi, quote unquote, shitcoin casino, and we move into people trying to use this in the real world. This is going to hang them up. And if there's no solution for this, you're going to wind right back up at the banks. And that's actually something that is starting to occur. But if you're doing this on Bitcoin, and no video showing. Oh, there we go. If you're doing this on Bitcoin, this is from 2020, things that we did as soon as I got here to Saipan, and Tobias participated in some of these things, but I just want to show you what this looks like. This is the first ever purchase using postage protocol. So this is a wallet. This is back on BCH. This is a wallet that has no BCH inside of it, and it just has a stablecoin that was out at the time called Honest Coin that was being issued on BCH. And this is a real purchase of lunch. It was the first ever purchase that this was done with back in June of 2020. So that's how long we have been working on these protocols and how long we've been using them in the real world. So I hope that this will play.
Hi there.
Hi, good afternoon.
I ordered the bacon cheeseburger.
Yes, sir. It's ready.
Awesome.
Here's your order, Islander Burger.
Can I pay in USDH?
Yes, you can. Great. So the total $12. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
And then there it is in her wallet. So it's a completely non-custodial peer-to-peer transfer of a US dollar token with no need for gas. Very obviously very fast, as fast as transferring with eCash. And the thing that we saw over and over through the years trying to onboard people to the native tokens, be it ETC, BCH, BSV, whatever it was, trying to onboard merchants, is the volatility. They just couldn't do it. The first time that somebody said, okay, you can visit, okay, I'll take BTC, and then it had a 10% drop over the month, and their business has a 6% margin, and they're like, by accepting BTC, I just lost money. Thanks, bro. So in this case, it was actually, we were able, with this particular merchant, to say, hey, look, if you accept this, we'll even cash you out. Sure, why not? We'll take your stable coins and we'll cash you out 1-to-1 with USD, right? It's a no-brainer. Easy for them to take it, especially it's like, oh, what's the transaction fee? 1%. We'll do it for 1%. Oh, yeah, we'll it all day, every day. They're paying 4% with credit cards here, right? So for them, it's a no-brainer. They see it's fast, it's cool. Sure, we'll do this. And this is, 5 years ago at this point. Over 5 years that we're doing this. And we've done more and more here, not only with the government, but the entire cannabis industry for a period was doing stable coins here. So let you go to the next. So earlier I had said that Venezuela is embracing stable coins. Let's look at what it looks like in Venezuela, because I think it's very important to see what happens when you can't overcome that UX situation. People are not going to live with that user experience. So what are you going to end up with? What you end up with is you end up with a custodial experience via Binance, which is exactly how USDT is being used in Venezuela. And by the way, this is like every store in Venezuela. If you're not up on this, every store in Venezuela right now is accepting USDT via Binance. This is what it looks like.
Y bueno, tal cual estamos en un supermercado, así que vamos a ver si aceptan Binance con USDT. Pero bueno, ustedes se preguntarán, bueno, ¿cómo hago yo para registrarme en Binance? Es muy sencillo, recuerden todo en la descripción. Y para usar Binance o para utilizar el Binance Pay, mejor dicho, para pagar, es súper fácil. De hecho estoy acá, nos vamos a ir a Binance. Y aquí en la sección que está acá, aquí hay una opción donde dice enviar. Y bueno, básicamente aquí colocan el correo electrónico que van a enviarle a la persona. Y
So you can see that, he actually had to go in and enter in the email address. I mean, I guess you could clean that user experience up with a QR code. But it is not ideal. However, all of these people are onboarded to Binance. And so what do you wind up with? I mean, there isn't any USDT moving. Binance is officially like now they're just a bank, right? They're just all of these people's bank, and it's completely custodial. But why do they have to have the custodial experience? Because could you imagine, you saw the setup over there. Could you imagine trying to explain to everybody there, oh yeah, you're going to need to have some gas for that. You're going to need to have some ETH. We're going to need to do, it's just never going to happen. But you take that away and you give a user experience where it's a one token user experience and it's easy. And when that currency craters, boom, they adopted it. You know what? No one went out pushing it. It just happened on its own. But what you lose, and this is the key, what you lose is you lose digital sovereignty. You lose your sovereignty in this case when you go custodial. And so that's really the fight that we're looking at. And the reason why I would hope that people who want to have freedom, as Anthony said, starting this out, would understand that stablecoins are here. They're not going anywhere. There's a free version, free Libre, right? There is a freedom version that those of us who are in the space are trying to push. And there is a not free version, which is what you get by default with, for instance, Binance. If we don't push a free version and we don't put a flag down, the only thing we will get is the not free version. And at that point, eventually, just like the gold standard went away, eventually when it's all just custodial Binance, guess what goes away? The underlying blockchain digital currency goes away, and it's just within the books of the exchanges. And so digital sovereignty is the ability for all individuals on the internet to control access to information and to access the information of others without the need for a trusted third party. The most important thing, this whole thing is about no third parties, because we've seen what happens. And you say, oh, well, maybe this is good. Yeah, somebody in the chat is like, oh, a CBDC. Okay, yeah, central banks in control. Okay, but, maybe central bank is not even the worst case scenario. So in July, President Trump signed the Genius Act into law. What was interesting about the Genius Act is it is the first law, most people don't realize this, until the Genius Act was signed, digital asset was not defined in U.S. law. There was regulations, and not even regulations, but guidance saying that it was related to something else. Now we have stablecoin defined, digital asset, distributed ledger, aka blockchain protocols, blockchain protocols or distributed ledger protocols. So even carve-outs for non-custodial, which was great, is wonderful. You can thank the senators from Wyoming for that. But what this did, and I've been getting calls about it, what this did was it effectively allowed finally banks and all of these institutions to participate. So I was just on my LinkedIn last week. Visa had a sponsored ad talking about how good stablecoins were. I just saw Citibank. They just released their 2030 projections for stablecoins. All the banks are getting involved. Bank of America has said, we're going to do a stablecoin. Now because they have this law. Do you think that stablecoin is going to look like the one token peer-to-peer experience, or do you think that stablecoin is going to look like that Binance custodial experience, just a little bit better? It's just going to be like Zelle or whatever. Make it less expensive for them and faster for them, but not better for the people. And Donald Trump signed that. I think a lot of people don't know this. We were talking about, a CBDC would be worse. Somebody said, or worse, a CBDC. Well, does everybody know about World Liberty Financial? So this is World Liberty Financial. This is their about page. This is their team. You see it's Trump and all of his sons. And then Steve Witkoff, who, if you don't know Steve Witkoff is the lead, what would they call him? Ambassador, negotiator? He's the one who's over there negotiating with Putin, negotiating with Netanyahu, him and his kids. And their main product is the World Liberty Financial USD, aka USD1. which is out there. It's got $2.6 billion in market cap already. I just want to just quick shout out to Chase Harrow, because this is a man of like, who has cojones that are incredibly huge, because he's started a business with like the most powerful man in the world and his kids, who are all in suits in their pictures. And he was like, I'm gonna do backwards baseball cap. So big balls. Shout out to Chase. Looks ridiculous, but gigantic balls. Wonderful. Of course, here we go. He passes the law, and then what do we hear? Circle, right? Coinbase, all those guys, USDC. All of a sudden, they're exploring reversible USDC transactions. They say in a break from the crypto ethos. But it's not just a break. A reversible transaction is not just a break from the crypto ethos. It's the reverse of the crypto ethos. Because Satoshi's whole vision was to stop the double spend problem. Well, what is the double spend problem? That's the next sentence in the white paper in the abstract. Well, the double spend problem is when a transaction gets reversed and the person could spend the money again. So what's the point of even doing crypto? What's the point of even having a blockchain and immutable distributed ledger if you've got a reversible transaction? There's absolutely no purpose. So I say this is absolutely reversing course. And so we knew that this was coming. The people around me who have been working on this, I think people in that room or watching here who I've worked with over the years, I had been saying to them, stablecoins is going to be the thing, and it's only going to be governments and banks eventually that will be able to do it. So we either need to find a government and or a set of banks who are willing to do it the right way. And luckily, I was here, and luckily, people here have a unique relationship with the U.S. dollar and with the U.S. government, and they have a sense of independence and a sense of community. And so this is from our delegate to Washington, D.C. The Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, where Saipan is an interesting jurisdiction that is not a state and it is not a territory. It has a very unique arrangement. Most people do not know about it, that in the 1970s, the people here cut an incredible deal. Basically, they traded a lease of some very important land here on an island called Tinian. And they traded that lease for the best deal that any conquered people have ever gotten from the empire that conquered them. So this was taken from the Japanese during World War II. They basically got U.S. citizenship for all of their people. They got to be treated like a state and be able to get federal aid and all of that. But at the same time, they were able to have no land alienation. So although they are U.S. citizens, and they can go travel anywhere in the U.S. and they have U.S. passports and they can go and own land anywhere in the U.S. just like me, I cannot own lands here. So Donald Trump can't come here and own land. And I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of Americans don't know about this place. They have a huge amount of self-rule that they carved out for themselves in a very interesting sort of historical artifact. And so that same island where they traded the lease, and by the way, Tinian is the place where, just to say how strategic it is, it's the place where the two bombers took off to drop the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was basically like the last place taken in World War II. And the runways and the bomb pits where they loaded those atomic bombs are actually still out there. And the government of that island is a sovereign government by their constitution. And so actually our delegate to the United States happens to be from that island. She's in this picture along with her brother, who's the president of the Senate of the Commonwealth. And they passed a law, and we minted the Tinian stablecoin on eCash. That law was really passed not just by them, but it ended up being passed by all of the people here. The Attorney General being scared of anything labeled crypto. Now, mind you, this is back in May. This is before the stablecoins had blown up because of the Genius Act. So they're really leaders. He urged the governor to veto the bill, and the governor did veto the bill. And the entire legislature, on a 2/3 vote, there were only 3 people in the total legislature voting against. they voted to overturn that veto to be able to have the stablecoin. And so we are working through, the Attorney General still decided he was going to fight, so we're working through a kind of a pro forma little piece to get everything signed off on by the courts. But it's moving forward, and after it took still months after for Wyoming to launch it's the first U.S. state-backed stablecoin. So it's the first state issued because we're not a state, but ours was the first government issued, and it's right there on eCash. So these were the first, just like those first 100 Tether issued on a Bitcoin network. The same goes for MUSD being issued, and it's going to have all of the thing. My company, Marianas Rye Corp, has the 10-year contract, exclusive 10-year contract with Tinian to provide the software and services for the issuance and redemption of this token and the ecosystem development. So that means organizing around the wallets, explorers, all of that, and obviously interacting with the eCash community. So we are dedicated to it remaining peer-to-peer electronic cash. It's issued by a U.S. government, so it's as legal as it comes. And it has a lot of protection. And we have a very unique situation out here. So if people want to develop on this, I would say now is the time. It's going to be a gold rush. Hit me up and come out and let's do some work. The people are ready they've been very accepting of this technology anyway. And the government is very open. And it's got U.S. banking and U.S. laws, but a lot of freedom. So if people are interested, this is a moment. It's obviously, we can use it here, we can use it globally. So this is kind of a recruitment call out. If you want to come and work on this thing, hit me up, because definitely now is the time. This is in classic Bitcoin fashion and hiding a little message in. This is the first output. It's $100. There was a little plaque being held here, and that $100 is sort of lacquered into the plaque. And so we sent it to an unspendable address that down there decodes to Sizus Masi Timian, which in the Chamorro language means both thank you, Tinian, and God bless Tinian. So why reinvent the wheel, right? The stablecoin industry is going to become one of the biggest industries. It's already permeating in places like Venezuela, but now that the shackles are kind of off and the big boys can play at it, best believe it's about to take over the world. And the best place for it, if we want to do real peer-to-peer, the only place that it's going to work, and that's the interesting thing and the opportunity, is the only place it's going to work is on Bitcoin networks, because that's the only place that you could do the kind of experience that I showed. And the best Bitcoin network for it, hands down, just objectively, is eCash. It's provably and indisputably Satoshi's Bitcoin. There's no question about that. And I think the more that you hear from the speakers, so many of us already know, but I think it should be solidified by the end of this conference. So I think a lot of the protocols that will be spoken about is that you could see we can do so much actually in terms of the payment protocols, the decentralized exchange, all of that, to just have this single digitally native payment protocol that we could use across all of Web3 or Web4 or whatever comes next for payments, which is the interesting part. Not for trading, not as a marker on an exchange, not for the shitcoin casino, but for payments. That's the thing that's coming now. It's the thing we've been waiting for. It's the thing that many of us have been advocating for. It's here. It's coming now. Another very important aspect that is just not possible kind of without smart contracts, but is something you just do off the bat with Bitcoin, is the multi-output transactions that you get with that UTXO model, which means we can do all kinds of cool stuff like splitting payments, sending processing fees. You can send, let's say that you have a product that you're selling and you want to split what comes in to the recipients because maybe there's a partnership, or you want to split it down even further and pay everybody on the supply chain. What Andreas Antonopoulos years ago called streaming money, the promise of that is here. And that's not available in the experience with an ERC20 token at all. And then I think what's important, and you're going to hear so much of this as we go through, is that the tech stack at this point is super robust. all kinds of tokens. Obviously, you have SLP and also now ALP. These are battle-tested token protocols. They're the best out there. The things that the eCash team, particularly the ABC team, opened up over the years with covenants and multisig, escrow, swaps, that's, I know, going to be talked about during the conference. And Tobias and I have spent time, the bridging capabilities of bridging this even onto Ethereum network, EVM networks, or onto something like Solana or these other ones. Even the bridges are better when it's first issued on eCash. Much, much better. So we've got all of that. Why reinvent the wheel? The opportunity is here. So if you're a developer, you're developing, or you're an investor and you want to invest, look for eCash companies that are doing things in the ecosystem of stablecoins. Look there, because I'm telling you, these things are going to take off, and we're going to be pushing it and helping them from our end, because we've got a base here. So Asia Pacific, we're the only US flagged besides Guam. It's just us and Guam and Asia Pacific. Giant market. They all want to use USD. And we're the only legal places that it can be coming from if it's going to be an Asia Pacific one. So again, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you if you're doing stuff that applies, and we'll see how we can fit it in. I think I have about 10 minutes left, and I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Hello. Okay. Awesome, Ben. Thank you very much. Yeah, just the sound and video were clear and really good quality, so that worked out well. I got the mic, so hopefully you can hear me. And if anyone here has questions, let me know. I'll just pass you the mic.
I've got some in the chat as well.
Yeah, sure. Here, I'll just pass one to Joey's got a question, and then maybe we can go to the chat.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the current obstacles are, the legal challenge being faced in Tinian right now. Is it based on something specific? Do they have some philosophical commitment to not wanting to do this? Or is it more like the legal technicality, personality conflict thing? It's a bit of a black box from observers.
It's politics. It's politics, yeah. So this is a very small community. So the population here is like under 50,000 people. So it's very much like a small town. But the way that I describe the politics here is it's families, it's large clans, and so it's very much like the mafia. And we have an elected attorney general, and so a lot of this is just posturing of people not wanting others to raise up, and there's the competition between the islands as well. So, and I think somebody else said also something about how long do you expect your fight with the attorney general to take. So there's no fight now. The attorney general started out cut it guns blazing and decided that they were going to do a lawsuit and all of this stuff. That lawsuit has now been stayed, and they're going through a process that's called a certified question. This is a U.S. Judicial process where it's not adversarial. It's just the mayor of Tinian and the attorney general submit a question to the Supreme Court. The question being, it's really not even about the stable coin. They're contending that this shouldn't have been a local law, is basically what they're contending. They're wrong, but they're saying that it overstepped the ability to. So we have the three islands are kind of like how the states are in the U.S., and then we have the central government that's kind of like federal. And so their argument is that the additional piece that is on this law, which it was basically passed where the stablecoin is being used as the tracking and accounting and anti-money laundering piece of Tinian, actually already had an internet gaming statute. And so they're actually saying that, so it will be used as like a digital casino chip. Perfect application. Because, I mean, it already is a digital casino chip in the shitcoin casino that is the crypto exchanges, right? So it's a perfect use case for stablecoin. They're making that argument, and they are just moving slowly. All they need to do is submit a statement of facts, and the attorney general is stalling, but he can't really stall much longer. So it's been 3 months in that regard. They'll submit it. The Supreme Court will say go. Tinian has agreed. during that, they just agreed as a gentleman's agreement to not move forward on their stuff. But we are not enjoined in any way. So we've built out in that time a wallet. We've got some ecosystem partners. We've got exchange partners. And so as soon as it's signed off on, we're ready to go. But everybody's hopeful. I think the timing was actually better this way. We're going to get a chance to see how the U.S. regulations actually turn out and all of that. And so I think that when this thing is really hot, we're going to hit the ground running. So I would anticipate, I think end of this year, beginning of next, likely. And then we're there. Like I said, my company's got a 10-year contract. So we're positioned really, really well.
All right. There's somebody who's saying,
So ahead.
So we heard a lot about why you think that Bitcoin, the UTXO structure and so forth are great for stable coins. But just maybe 1 minute, because I see we got some other question in the chat. Why do you think eCash specifically over BSV or BCH or, these other coins that also position them as cash? What do you think makes eCash so special in that sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, and it's maybe a little more out of Deuteronomy. It's not necessarily that eCash is righteous; it's that the other ones are wicked. So just to quote the Old Testament, right? I'm not giving you this land because you're righteous. I'm giving you this land because the people that are there are wicked. And I think that it's again we're entering this in the long term. We did a 10-year contract. So we've got to bet on what network is still going to be viable and is not going to screw it up in the next 10 years. And I think just BTC off the jump, forget about it. To be able to do the things that we're doing, we actually can't. Some of the protocols, we can't do it at all just because they never added the opcodes that Bitcoin ABC added. On the Bitcoin Cash side, some people are aware, most will probably not be, about why I decided not to follow the BCH chain and to continue working on eCash. And that was just basically because what I saw over there from the core developers at Bitcoin Cash was what I just considered to be a lot of messing around and adding things that no one was asking for. And my experience with the Bitcoin ABC team has been that they have fought ferociously to keep things simple, to keep them elegant, but to really fight to include the features that are key to growing the capabilities of the chain. And those have not been many, but the ones that they have been so powerful and so important. And I use them in all of my applications. And so much of it is about the people. So much of it is about the team. But Avalanche is another great example. I think that as this thing moves forward and confirmations, if we're going to do peer-to-peer, and we're going to have this global scale, and people are going to be using this with cash, I think having to explain to somebody that, you're going to need, even if it's the relatively fast confirmations with Ethereum, it still is questionable, right? So to get the pre and post consensus, I know the pre-consensus is coming, but it's these are the most important things. And I just think that ABC has done such a good job that I'm just betting on ABC. And so I'm betting on eCash, and then my whole company and literally the people here, the government of this place, are betting on eCash. So we're sold.
Oh, one more question. I guess this will be the last question.
Hi, Vin. My question is, as someone who went through this collaborative process of launching MUSD with the Kenyan government, can you talk about compare perspectives of newly launched stablecoins on eCash being similar initiatives done in collaboration with other governments versus that potentially hypothetically being privately owned already existing stablecoins such as the giants that we know, USDT and USDC, ever happening in your view?
Okay, so that's a very, very good question. The result of this Genius Act was that basically what you see in the landscape, that's pretty much going to be it. What you will get some more bank issued stable coins, maybe one or two from the major banks, but you're really not going to see many more. The days of a private issuer who is not, certainly when it comes to USD, any issuer now, a private issuer who is, so first off, it's illegal. It is illegal in the United States, period, now at this point, to issue a stable coin if you from the Genius Act. And it's 5 years in federal prison and $1 million fine. If you issue a stable coin right now in the U.S., a U.S. dollar stable coin as a U.S. entity. If you do it from outside, like Tether is doing it from outside, and you want U.S. entities to be able to use it, so either way, you have to go through the regulatory process that they're setting and basically get licensed, be a licensed and regulated stablecoin operator. Otherwise, you cannot operate in the U.S. market. And so basically, at this point, any USD... So first off, stablecoins, the only ones that make any sense are U.S. dollar. Why would you do anything other than the global reserve currency? Like Venezuela didn't choose to do a euro. They're like, oh, let's do a euro stable. Let's use the euro stablecoin. No, they're going to use U.S. dollar. And so that's what's going to happen. It's going to be the private issuers that you see, the big boys. Tether is going to use the provision in the law that allows them to be a foreign operator who gets U.S. permission. Pablo Arduino, their CEO, was at the bill signing in the White House. So that's definitely going to happen. The landscape that you see is pretty much what it is. So now's the time to kind of pick a horse. And as far as the landscape being what it is, and with a stablecoin that's got a high degree of legal protection, that's literally U.S. government backed, there's only one that's issued on a Bitcoin network so far, and the only Bitcoin network it's issued on is Zcash. So again, I would love to have you guys reach out. Let's see how we can collaborate. If you've got skills, if you've got something to bring to the table, we'd like to work with you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Vin. That was great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Ska for Vin Hype.